incredibly bummed. Like, I'm not distraught and screaming. I'm excited to be chill for a while. But I kind of got to this place where the virtual events just weren't giving me the same thing.
What is up, good WordPress people? Welcome back to the WPMRR WordPress podcast. I'm Joe.
And I'm Christie.
And you're listening to the WordPress Business Podcast. Christie, what's going on this week?
Nothing much. I almost said, and I'm Joe.
Isn't it funny myself. How you're like, you focus so much on trying to remember your own name that you're like, wait, which one am I? I'm Christie.
Which one am I? There's 2 names on the script. Yeah, I almost said I'm Joe. But yeah, nothing much. So here we are, another week, month, year, who knows? In the middle of a global pandemic, just making digital content for your ears to consume while you also sit at home. Yeah, I don't know. I'm here. I really think that I'm settling into life in Austin, Texas.
Nice.
Starting to see what is out there, adapting my wardrobe, That's been kind of fun. Yeah.
Did you find going from DC to Austin, you had to like make a shift in wardrobe?
Oh my
yes,
gosh.
the slow
It's
nod.
like everywhere I went, I was overdressed. It didn't matter what I was wearing. I was overdressed.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's probably what I would have guessed.
The DC to Austin fashion shift is crazy. Actually, I think something that I'm going to do today after work is go shopping and,
nice.
Buy some biker shorts or something. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but seriously, it's, and I feel like I've now made so much content about my life in the last month, and part of that is that I've just moved around so much that in a way I feel very comfortable adapting to new places, meeting new people, figuring out the nuances and differences depending on where you are, right? And fashion and the way that you dress has always been a part of that. It's like every different place, people don't want to admit it, but I can tell you, having lived in like 7 different cities, that every city kind of has a uniform. And you want to figure out how to dress in a way that expresses yourself and is comfortable and all those things that we talk about being important in the way that we dress. But you also kind of adapt to where you are. And I think that's a big component, definitely, of, being a person that lives among other people. So that's been fun. And I don't know, work-wise, I'm still working on a ton of content for Nexus. We are really hitting the ground running now that we have really engaged in that half-year process of bringing over the Liquid Web products into that Nexus brand. Now we're standing all these things up, and it continues. We are, of course, working with the marketing team to figure out how to exist in this new reality where we don't have in-person events anymore, right? That used to be such a big way to get your company's name out there, whether you're a small company or a large company or anywhere in between. And now we don't have that. So whether you're big or large, we are thinking about how to adapt that and coming up with crazy ideas. So I'll talk a little bit more about those in today's episode. That's what we're going to talk about, but that's been a big chunk of my life lately, and just figuring out other ways. We're launching a e-commerce masterclass, in an effort to be helpful surrounding these uncertain times, and hopefully that means that people will get value out of what we're doing and think about us next time they need hosting. What about you?
Super cool. What's new with me? First, I want to talk about, it feels like a lot of companies and a lot of folks now that it's like no more WordPress official events through all of 2021, no WordCamp US this year. Everyone is going digital, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little nervous that this feels like a time where a lot of big companies can pour a lot of resources into doing a ton of content. And that potentially puts us as a little bit of a disadvantage in some senses, because we just don't have like the resources to dedicate to some like the bigger companies like GoDaddy. They could put like $1 million a month into like putting out a ton of content and stuff if they wanted to, and like, well, we can't quite put those resources in. So we're thinking a lot about how we do digital at WP Buffs while also like doing it in a way that's smart and unique, and not necessarily as like put as much out as we can, but like try to put out like as much high quality stuff as we can instead, I guess, if that makes sense. So this is stuff like we're definitely thinking about, and Allie and I are actually talking a lot about as she's doing more community work around virtual events and that kind of thing. So, but I just wanted to touch on that because you mentioned it. But yeah, not too much is new with me. We hired head of growth, which is, I guess, a big news for us. Yeah, Alec Wines. He was actually a white label partner before he joined, so that's how he got to know us. So it's cool having someone who kind of already knows about what we do, especially from having the pain point side of things. And so he ran an agency, and now he's kind of joined up with us. And so that's been cool. We just did his first onboarding call before we recorded today. So yeah, he's starting this week, and that's gone really well so far. He's started off, he's hit the ground running. So I'm happy with how that's going so far. And it'll be nice to have someone come in and help with some of the growth stuff, because I'd like some help with that area. And it'll be nice to have someone be able to handle more of that kind of work. So yeah, that's what's probably like big with me. Other than that, we'll talk more about summit stuff, I guess, here in a little bit, but prepping the summit, and yeah, just keeping on. So all is well over here.
That is super exciting. Congratulations on that new hire. Really signifying that you're ready for big growth. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's we just hit kind of the $1 million a year mark, and so it's like this is the time. It's like when we were smaller, we didn't really have like the resources to like kind of throw at problems and like improve things. And now we have a little bit more. I just talked about how like there are other companies with like way more resources than we have, but we are at the point where like we have some money in the bank account, like we have a little war chest, we have more to do more things with. I haven't experienced this yet, but a lot of people I've talked to who are like farther along than we are say like it's easier to make your second million than it is to make your first million, which I see why like people would think that, and I understand the concepts behind it, because once you have like a core, an audience, you have a business model that works, you could just like pour more resources into it and grow it. But a lot of things change as you grow a company as well, so you have to adapt, change as well. So there's a lot of stuff to think about. So that's actually what I've been thinking about a lot the last month or so, is like, what does this look like as a $2 million a year business? What does this look like as a $5 million a year business? What does this look like as like a $10 million a year business? Like it's a little intimidating because it's like we're going to be so much bigger and different at those points. If we get to that point, who knows, right? But it's just a lot to think about. So yeah.
Allow me to comfort you with something that you already know.
Please.
But maybe our listeners don't know. Or actually, this is something everybody knows, but allow me to remind you that yes, large companies have more resources to pour into lots of virtual content and events now that we're all adapting to this new reality, which we're going to talk about. But also, large companies are slow. They're slow. Even if they all notice that, oh, hey, we're living this new reality. We need to adapt. We need to create high quality content. Getting 30 people to do that, it's like, oh, but we had all these targets and now we have to adjust the targets. And what about the like 2020 Q3 strategy plan? And what about this? And oh my gosh, and do we need to have a meeting to figure out our next thing? And so-and-so's on vacation and they need to, and so in that sense, yes, there's more resources, but large companies are going to have a harder time steering the ship towards interesting and fun and different virtual content for the next year than a smaller team that can just clearly say, oh, we need to do this. Boom. Right. So
yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. I think I've
not that that's
said
happening at
that.
Nexus at all.
Right. I've said that actually as well. So I should maybe like, dog food it, eat my own dog food sort of thing. I think the biggest advantage smaller companies have is you can like do it today. Like you can go and experiment with a bunch of different stuff and there's not a lot of risk to it. And even us, like we can't move as fast like as we could, 2 or 3 years ago, but we can still like, I could make a change. I could do new things next week if I wanted to, right? Like Allie is starting this new like YouTube series, which like we'll talk more about in the coming weeks. But like we just like decided, like she was like, I think this would be a cool idea of like coming into the conference and like to continue to promote YouTube stuff. And I was just like, yeah. And that was it. And she's doing it. So like there's not a lot of like yellow or red tape there. So I totally agree. I think that's good advice for like folks who are not at a big company or running your own small business. Like you have advantages too. So use the things like you're agile, you can move fast, you can go do and experiment with different stuff. You don't have a big bureaucracy of like slow changing, like a battleship changing its course, right? Because by the time they change course, maybe a little bit too late to really take advantage of it. So yeah, I'm with you.
Yep.
Cool. All right. That kind of shifts nicely, I guess, into what we want to talk about today, which is like the big news that most people are talking about in the WordPress space that some people are like, okay, and some people are like, oh my God, I can't believe it. This is so crazy. WordCamp US canceled for 2020. Totally canceled.
And 2021.
And as well, the more recent announcement that also 2021, all official WordPress events are canceled through 2021. So until January 2022, there will not be any more official WordPress IRL events. Everything will be digital. And this is really big news for our community because we're good at being digital, right? We've always been digital. We are a digital community, but like those like WordCamp US or WordCamp Europe, they were not only things we all looked forward to every year, and smaller WordCamps, right? Our local WordCamps, our local, there were not only things we looked forward to as WordPress people, because as nice as being able to communicate in Zoom is, it's also cool to hang out in real life. Like
get coffee, get a drink.
Yeah, totally.
Some karaoke.
Yeah. There's also like what happens to contributor days, like what happens to, people like businesses that go to WordPress events to like do some business or find some new partners and stuff. Like those things, a lot of times those stem from IRL meetups. And so it's a big change, I think, for a lot of us. And so today we wanted to like focus on two things. I think one, we just have a nice little list of virtual WordPress events that you can go to later this year, later in 2020. And then talk a little bit about how we can do this whole permanently remote and permanently virtual event thing responsibly. Trying not to burn out on digital, trying to, I don't know, not be sad and depressed and stressed all the time. I don't know. It's kind of hard these days, but we got to try to find some strategies, myself included, and I'm sure yourself included, right? We all have to try and do that together. So, yeah. So first, list of events coming up. We got a nice little list here. Christie, you want to start us off? Well, I'm going to start us off because the first event I had here is one that actually already passed, but I wanted to see if you went to it or if you knew about it. It was the WordPress.com Growth Summit. That was August 11th through 13th. So it's actually the last day is today. I don't know if you attended any of that. I saw WordPress.com and I was like, no, I'm probably not going to that. So I didn't know if you attended it or if you knew about it or anything like that.
So I did know about it. And I guess we can get into it now, but I really struggle with virtual events. It's I don't know, it's not the same. So I did know about it. I didn't have a problem with it being WordPress.com. I thought it was really cool. The lineup looked really interesting. But for me, I don't think that I'm a huge attender of virtual events. I think I was really excited at the beginning, and we'll talk about some of the stuff that I'm really pumped to go to, because it'll be virtual in from places where I would have had to spend a lot of money traveling to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just not the same for me to attend a virtual event. It's so hard to focus. I don't have the people connection. And I don't know, I think the announcement of WordCamps in 2021, I think that was the moment in which it hit that this isn't over next month.
Yeah.
I think up until this point, I had sort of been hoping that, like, in 2 weeks, we can go out to brunch again, you know?
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I think that was the first sort of, like, thunk. Like, okay,
Totally.
nope, not the case. We are gonna be put for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Before we keep going on the list, I think I've heard people say, like, if you want to like really know like how long this is going to go on, or like the extent to how serious this is, look at what the big tech businesses are doing. I don't know how true that is, but when you see like Twitter saying you're remote now, like you can work remotely forever, and Google being like, we're working remotely the rest of this year, a ton of big businesses have said the rest of this year, no in-office stuff. A lot of big businesses have said, big tech businesses have sold a lot of their, or stopped rental on a lot of their like offices. So again, I don't know how true that is, but I think it's an interesting concept. I mean, they do business, and big businesses obviously like do the financial part of business well, and they know something. So I agree, and I think this was definitely like a big wake up call for a lot of people. Like, oh, this is like 2021 will probably be COVID heavy as well. Like it'll be about COVID too.
Yeah.
But that's cool to hear about the WordPress.com Growth Summit. It didn't really come across my plate early enough, and it seemed more like WordPress.com centric. So I was like, I just saw WordPress.com and I was like, oh, I guess that's not for me. So I didn't really like think about it again. But anyway, that one's passed now. Hopefully it was a good event for people.
Passed.
I don't know.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will say though, I'm about to disagree with myself because I just said like, yeah, I don't know. I saw it. It's like, I'm not really signing up for a lot of virtual events. But the next on our list is MicroConf Remote, September 1st. And MicroConf is one of my favorite conferences just because the content is so good that I would pay $50 to go to MicroConf Remote. I would. And just listen, especially if I was growing something new, right? Like maybe not this year because I'm working on something established for an employer. But if I was working on something new, $50 is a steal to get all that really high quality content. And they usually do a really good job of creating engagement online before the event. So I imagine you can just do that, but better with the virtual setting.
Totally.
I don't know.
Yeah. MicroConf Remote. You can go to microconf.com and sign up. I guess it's $50 for a ticket. I didn't know that, but totally worth $50. Christie and I have both gone to MicroConfs IRL in the past. They're great. You're right, Christie. The content in itself is enough. It's fantastic content. They're really good at that. It really is like, probably like 95th percentile content, all of it. Like, I really do believe that. So they're great with their content. They really know what they're doing there. The network piece is really good too. Maybe won't be as much about that in a remote conference. I think a lot of remote conferences struggle with that, but who knows? They probably have some tricks up their sleeve since that's such a big value add for them. MicroConf was the conference I went to where I really learned about subscription pricing and like what's monthly recurring revenue. Like I didn't really know what that was until like it was a thing until I went to MicroConf. Like lifetime value for your customers, what's your churn, what's your ARPU, like all these basic things I didn't know. I learned all at MicroConf, and it really did change the way I approached like how to grow my business. So I put enormous value in MicroConf, and I think the remote conference will be awesome. It's not WordPress specific, but if you're running a subscription business, MicroConf is a good place to go to learn from like SaaS founders and like productized service founders and like people who have gone this route before and really just like learn those foundational skills to be able to grow a subscription kind of like bootstrapped sort of business. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's not a WordPress specific conference, but every WordPress business is a MicroConf business.
yeah, that is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Cool. Next up on the list, what do you know? WPMRR Virtual Summit. This is kind of our virtual summit. Obviously, you're listening to the WPMRR WordPress podcast. This is the summit that WPMRR is throwing coming up. The dates are what are the dates? I have to look on my sheet for it. September 23rd through 24th. So coming up this fall. It's all about. We talked about MicroConf being, helping you with your subscription business. WPMRR is kind of bringing a lot of those ideas into the WordPress space. So it's how to run and grow a successful subscription business in the WordPress space, whether you're an agency or a freelancer, or you're doing like a productized service like selling care plans like we do, or if you're doing more like plugin work or a theme shop or even like hosting. It'll be helpful to like think about how to do that a little better and build a successful subscription business. So yeah, we're excited for that. We're going to be giving away a lot of money and raising a lot of money for Lawyers for Good Government. So that's exciting. We're going to give away a bunch of free merch. You're speaking, Christie, as am I. No, you're speaking. I'm not even speaking. So I'm just kind of hanging out. I'll be hanging out in the hallway. So yeah, that'll be cool. Are you excited?
I'm excited. It's going to be fun. What am I going to talk about?
Still figuring out. Yes, we're I don't know, 8 weeks out now, 9 weeks. So we're still getting nice and talks together and all that stuff. But Brian Richards is working on it with us. He does WooSesh and WordSesh. So yeah, we're hoping to throw an awesome conference with a little bit of his help. So
it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, WPMRR.com to sign up for free. Yay, that'd be cool. Fintech Conf, September 25th. That is femtechconf.com. That is, I don't think you have to be a female to sign up and go for it, but I think it is focused on, it's like the community conference for empowering women in the tech world. So if you're a woman listening to this, it's a good conference to go to. And on their website, it says they're expecting 30,000 attendees.
That's huge.
They have like 50 plus speakers. Yeah, I don't know any other conferences that I've seen that have that many expected attendees. Maybe that's a little bit of like a marketing thing. I don't know. But if they have 30,000 attendees, I mean, that's huge. They must have the super zooped up version of whatever they're hosting it with, like Vimeo plus plus or Zoom plus plus to host all those folks. So yeah, that'll be a good one if you're a female and you want to go to a conference that's specifically to empower women in the technology space. That's a good one.
We have October 13th and 14th. If you are working with WooCommerce, you can come to WooSesh, another Brian Richards and Patrick Rollin production. And it'll be fun. I think I'm speaking at that one too. Maybe I should ask.
Oh, sweet.
And we'll talk about WooCommerce, and it will be a blast.
The life of being Christie Trinos. How am I speaking at that? I don't know.
Oh God!
I have to check. Maybe I am.
No, that's not how
you should speak. Brian, if you're listening, Christie should obviously be speaking of that as a expert.
Why am I like this? No, I think it'll be fun. I spoke at WooSesh for the first time last year. WooSesh is an event that has always been virtual. And it's a blast. The content's really high quality too. It is all focused on WooCommerce, right? So the crowd is small and niche, but it's fun, and the chat's pretty lively. So yeah, that's a good one to work on if you're interested in WooCommerce.
Yeah, that's why we got Brian's help doing WPMRR VS, because WooSesh and WordSesh are both so great. I was like, I want to do something like that. So hopefully our virtual summit will be similar in experience to those. But WooSesh, if you're all about WooCommerce, definitely check out WooSesh.com. Also WordSesh, EMEA is coming up. That is September 22nd. So that's actually, is that,
Oh,
did
was
we
it
get
out
that
of
right?
order? Sorry,
No,
everybody. No, that can't be right.
that's
I
okay.
think
No, it's the 2nd
it's
of September. I wrote it down wrong. I'll take the hit. 2nd of September. So sorry, everyone, that was a little out of order, but hey, another one to add to your calendar. WordSesh EMEA is September 2nd. So
all
Brian
right.
is
In
helping with
between
3
MicroConf
conferences.
Remote and WPMRR Virtual Summit.
Yes, so go back on your calendar and add that one, WordSesh EMEA. So also a virtual conf, always has been a virtual conference. It's I think it's like developer specific, but if you're not a developer, I think you'd still get value from it. But I think it is to get like WordPress. It says here on the homepage, join WordPress developers from around the world for this must-attend virtual conference on the 2nd of September. So yeah, that's it's definitely one that if you're a developer or probably like part of an agency or freelancer or like building websites or designing websites, you'd probably find a lot of value from WordSesh. So definitely check it out. Have you spoken at that one, Christie? Or
I spoke at WordSesh Americas earlier this year. And that was a ton of fun also. Yeah, really well
nice.
done. Lots of high quality content. And yeah, I think the regional idea is really cool, right? Like with doing a virtual event to sort of feature the sort of big regions of the world. I think it's actually kind of really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. I remember when we were starting the WordPress, the WPMRR Virtual Summit, because I was getting help. We're getting help from Brian. And I was like, you do these multiple events for different time zones, which I think is super cool. This year, we're going to do one because I just want to get one right. But I like this idea of you doing like different events for different time zones, because if you throw it, it's good for US and Europe, but it may not be good for Asia or, Eastern Europe or, down in Australia. So I think it's interesting to do different time zone specific ones just so everyone can get a piece of the action. So
I also just love the idea of focusing on featuring different speakers from different regions, right? Like when you sort of put the whole world up against each other on figuring out speakers for a global thing like WordPress, it's like you eventually just end up with a bunch of like American and Western European representation. And it's just like, can we break this down a little more? Like there's a lot of other things going on in the world.
Totally. I mean, we struggled a little bit with that in our speaker selection. It's hard to recruit, but you have to put a lot of time into recruiting speakers from really diverse backgrounds, location, but also a ton of different factors. So, yeah, it's hard. But I think that the way Brian does things with WordSesh and WooSesh or I guess with WordSesh specifically, and doing different time zones and having speakers from those areas speak at that, it allows it it almost automatically allows for a more diverse speaker lineup across all of the WordSeshes. So I dig that very much, and I think that's cool. WP Agency Summit, October 12th through 16th. So this is a longer event. So 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 5-day event at WPAgencySummit.com. WordSesh we talked about is kind of for WordPress developers. WP Agency Summit is for agencies, freelancers, people building a WordPress business like that, and thrown by our friend Jan Koch. I think this is his 3rd or 4th year running it. I actually don't know, but always one of the ones that I see out there that I'm like, I would recommend for people trying to build WordPress agencies. Like good speaker lineup, good content. And something I usually say, like if people are looking for a virtual event for agency folks, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a go-to.
Cool.
Central.wordcamp.org.
Yeah, I mean, so those are like sort of the big virtual events that we have going on that we've seen that we think are relevant, but then there's also all the WordCamps that have moved online, right? So the WordCamp Central website is now updated and it tells us which events are online and what's going on there. I'm looking at it now. I wonder if I can share my screen. No, I can't. And I mean, it's cool. Like we're participating in WordCamp Minneapolis, Nexuses. So we'll be doing that. That's coming up August 21st. So by the time this episode comes out, it'll be like a few days after that, I think.
Cool. I think we're sponsoring too.
Yeah, cool. And there's going to be a WordCamp Austin that is fully online. That's happening October 9th.
That's a newer one. I didn't see that one maybe last time I checked, but that was recently announced. So
recently announced.
Let's go. Cool. Okay. Minneapolis, you can go to central.wordcamp.org for all this stuff /schedule. It'll have all this, all of the online events. So there are still WordCamps to go to. They're just virtual, which means you can maybe apply to speak at some ones you couldn't travel to before, or you could attend some ones that you couldn't travel to before. So Minneapolis, Ojijima, Asheville, Sao Paulo, Lima, Philadelphia, Rochester, Austin, Los Angeles. So looks like there are about 10 here right now. And no matter where you are, you can attend, regardless of where you are in the world. So there's some more. Also not really in like exact order for this podcast, but it's all there on the schedule. If you
Here's one that
coming up
catches my attention. We have a fully online WordCamp Lima, September 25th and 26th. That's kind of cool. I had always wanted to go to an in-person WordCamp Lima. I feel like that would be a curious and different way to experience my city of birth. I don't know, for the listeners who don't know, I was born in Lima, Peru, and I was raised there until I was 9 years old. So I have lots of memories of it. I've been back a couple times after moving to the United States. And yeah, I always kind of wanted to engage with the WordPress community there, but just never really happened. There were a couple of Peruvian events that were in the works and they haven't happened yet. So that's really interesting. And they're looking for speakers.
Yeah, very cool. You should apply if you want to.
Do some WooCommerce in Spanish.
Yeah. Oh, you have to give your talk in Spanish to speak there?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I would assume so.
I guess probably.
I see. Yeah, I see some English language stuff like on the sponsors page, but
okay.
But that's cool. I think that's the thing that is a silver lining to me about all the virtual events, right? Like even if I struggle to really feel excited and engaged for one, is that we can go to ones that maybe would be farther or more prohibitively expensive to attend and get that experience with that local community. That's something I'm really pumped about. But I mean, other than that, it's it can be tough.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, last but not least, local meetups. No matter where you are in the world, you probably have a local-ish WordPress meetup. And actually now that everything's remote, like you can go to whatever local meetup you want to. If you go to like meetup.com and search WordPress, there are a bunch of WordPress meetups, a lot of which are doing online content. So I got an email from the folks up in Baltimore who, I've been to their meetup every once in a while. Actually, I haven't been in a little while, but I used to go somewhat frequently. And they did like an AMA Zoom call where you could like ask questions to like the people who run it. Having a WordPress issue, SEO issue, whatever. You can ask someone and get answers to your questions. And I thought that was cool. We do like a happiness bar event and the WordPress DC meetup every like 4 or 5 meetups so that people can come and just get questions answered. So check out some local ones. I bet there's some people still trying to do some local cool events that are now not local anymore. They're kind of global. So definitely a good area to check out.
Yep. So, yeah.
All right. Those are our... That's our
have...
yeah. I was just going to say the that's our list of 2020 events coming up. I'm sure there will be more in 2021. Maybe we'll do another episode when the next year starts or part of the way through next year so we can talk about what's going on then. But I want to talk a little bit about, you mentioned kind of at the beginning of this episode, like you're not a super big online events person. And I think there are probably a lot of other people out there that are, sad and disappointed, and we're ready for finally WordCamp US, and now no in-person events for the next like year and a half, really. So that's, I want to dig more into that, because like it's going to be a challenge for a lot of people, I think. And how we're going to tackle this is, even though we're a digital community, like it's going to be hard not to be able to really see each other, at least at like larger events.
Yeah, my opinion has changed over time.
Yeah.
I think at the beginning of this, maybe in March or whatever, I might have even talked about it on this podcast. I was actually pretty excited for this, right? I was like, oh my gosh, I've been popping into meetups that aren't my own and engaging with people out there and popping to people's happy hours and Zooms and,
Yeah.
and I'm so excited to go to these WordCamps, overseas, but not really, right? Like, and then, now it's August.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, I do love traveling and I love seeing people in person. And now I'm just like,
There's so many WordPress people I just want to like hug for like 4 minutes, and I can't, and it is tough.
Exactly. And I mean, like, and we're kind of talking about this before the episode too, right? Which in a way it does feel nice, right? Like, because one of the other things is I moved. So I'm kind of like, okay, so I'm going to get a nice long chunk of time to really get to know this city where I live, right? Because so much of my life has been, I live somewhere and I travel every other weekend to somewhere else. Right. And even when the shutdowns really started in DC, it was actually kind of nice to just like buckle down in DC for a minute, right? And really just sort of get to know like my monuments, my neighborhood, the things around me, and then everything shut down. And so I'm not like super incredibly bummed. Like I'm not distraught and screaming. I'm excited to be chill for a while. But I kind of got to this place where the virtual events just weren't giving me the same thing.
Totally. Yeah. I think, if I'm being honest, like, although we're throwing this WPMRR virtual event, like, I'm not a super big virtual event attender myself. I think probably part of that is like where I am, like in my business and like my WordPress journey. Like I'm almost like 10 years into my WordPress journey. And so, like the value I get is from like, when I go to WordCamps, I don't really like go to like do a lot of like business stuff. I go to like see friends. I go to like hang out. Like it's my fun time. Like I find it hilarious that like work pays for me to go to WordCamps. Like this is a vacation. Like this isn't like a business trip. But I think that like just based on where I am, like the virtual events don't, like I don't really get to see my friends at the virtual events. Like the virtual events are much better for content absorbing, not as good for like the hallway track, as we call it, right? They'll just like some people use it for networking and stuff, but a lot of people just like go chat and shoot the shit about WordPress, and like that's what I like to do. That's where a lot of my learning happens as like a WordPress professional. So I think I'm kind of with you in that boat. Our event is for people who want to get that content and want to get it all in one place and really want to like improve their businesses based on that. So a lot of people will attend our event for that reason. And we're trying to find ways to do more, hallway chat stuff, but it is totally like, it's not the same as IRL. So, yeah, I think it's a little bit of a struggle for me too. I'd probably put myself in the same boat as you. Like I was looking forward to WordCamp US and like some more like in-person meetups. From a business standpoint, I'm kind of like, okay, like we're a remote company, like, okay, I guess no one like really is using their travel budget right now. So like from a business perspective, I'm like, cool, we're like probably saving like $20,000 to $30,000 this year for like people's travels budgets. Like that's fine. Like good. That's good for us as a business, a little better cash flow. We're doing most of the same stuff. But that those $20,000 to $30,000 were spent for our travel budget for folks to like go to WordCamps and have fun and like go learn new things in professional development and all these things. So there's a loss there as well. And I know that because I feel the same way. Like I would love to go to some more, like see people at these events, and I do find myself like missing them a lot. But I got a lot of other stuff to do. I got an 8-month-old now at home. I got the family's doing well, and there's always a lot of work to do on WP Buffs and stuff. So I'm not, it's not the end of the world for me. But I know there are people who are really like upset about the fact that they won't be able to really do this for a while, because WordPress really is like core to their, not maybe only their work, but their like social circle,
Right.
and maybe even core to their like belief structure. Like a lot of people do WordPress because they're like open source, like this is what I do. Like, and now I can't do that with people in person, and I understand that challenge. I think Joe Casabona wrote an interesting article recently. It's on, I think, casabona.org, about virtual event burnout. And I think that attending virtual events is one way to like get your fix for work, hanging out with other people, being in chat with folks, just hanging out in Zoom and doing some Zoom calls and setting up some Zoom happy hours with people is also good. But other than that, it is kind of a struggle. I don't know if there are any other ways to like to making sure you're avoiding burnout and stuff. I think probably like turning off technology. That's not like specific to this time of our lives. It should probably be always. We should be focusing on that. But take time away from the internet and online and do responsible hangouts with people. Like a lot of places you can still go outside, right? Like, so like go on a hike with some friends. And if you feel comfortable doing that, you can do stay 6 feet apart and go hiking. We've done that a few times with friends, and I think that's a good way to like have those connections without necessarily like going to a concert with a bunch of people, right? So
yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail right on the head there, where you said there are people in our community for whom these in-person WordPress events constitute a lot of social needs and a lot of belief and spirituality needs. And I think that it can actually be, this is totally real, right? It can be really damaging to somebody in that category to have this taken away. And I don't know, like that's not me. Like I love WordPress, but I think most of my social needs are met through like my non-WordPress group of friends that like don't fully understand this weird WordPress thing I do. And like Joe, you're like one of my special exceptions, right? That you're like both. And then sort of same thing with like recreation, belief, and things like that. Like now that I'm in Austin, I've been, going outside a lot more and doing all of the different like parks and springs and things like that are here and meeting new people. And I just sort of tend to be like that very active sort of person. And so for me, it's not going to hit me as hard as someone who very much has a different type of relationship to being at a WordCamp every single weekend. Like, and I say this to people, I would say this to people then, I know people who are at WordCamp every single weekend. And that's where you see a ton of your friends. That's where you see the bulk of your work, right? And so if that's you, you gotta take care of yourself. This is a significant change, and downplaying it in any way is unfair to you. It's just WordCamps. No, if your life was that deeply entrenched in WordCamps, mine wasn't. This could get serious, right? And taking care of your emotional well-being and the way that you have your needs for friendship and going out and things like that met in other ways for the next year and a half is going to have to be really intentional. And it's just so hard. And I don't know how to help.
Yeah. I mean, we talked last week about like Matt Cromwell's tweet about this, and like I brought up Joe's like article about this that Ali actually told me about. The like if people have suggestions about like how to do virtual events and like WordPress community itself as a digital first community better, like I want to hear them. I don't know if we don't have all the answers here on this podcast. Sorry, listeners, if you were listening for like the exact answer, like we're looking for them too. I think that there's more, like there's always more like video conferences we can do and like video calls and like maybe eventually some smaller non-WordPress official meetups that we could do at some point when things get a little safer. If they do, hopefully, fingers crossed. But like for now, we're kind of stuck in this. And if people have some ideas about how we can do online WordPress better, like I'm all ears. Like tweet at us, like hit us up in Slack DMs. Like I want to hear some ideas, because we're trying our best with WPMRR Virtual Conf, and other people are doing online hangouts and events, and that's great. But do they need to change now that we're all online? Is there a different way that we could do them? Is there more we could do? Probably. So
does it look different when we're doing this for 2 years instead of 2 months? That's the question that I think we all need to ask, because the answer is always yes. Nothing looks the same in a 2-year timeline compared to a 2-month timeline. And a big part of that is going to be a lot of the really important, like you said, social and spiritual values that come from attending WordCamps for a lot of people who attend WordCamps.
Yep, for sure. Cool. I think that's probably a good place to wrap up for the day. We had a nice list, though, of virtual conferences coming up. So if nothing else, sign up for them. Go hang out and chat. Watch some talks if you want to. If not, it's a good time to chat. Ali is our community person, and she's going to be going to all these events and really just like to like make the events enjoyable. Like she'll be in chat. She wants to hang out with people, and we can find more time to hang out as a WordPress community. That would be excellent. So if people want to leave us reviews, they should do that, because we always read them and they're nice to read, especially when they're 5 stars. And they help give us new ideas for like what we want to do in the future for the show. So if someone really liked an episode, we'll do more episodes like that. So folks can go to WPMRR.com/iTunes, redirects you right there if they want to leave us a nice little review. Q&A episodes,
nice
Christie.
Little pretty
you want to do some more
review? Send us questions. Send us your questions to that's YO at WPMRR.com. I love Q&A episodes. I think they're super fun. I would love to do another one.
Yes, we always like to do that. We'll do some more in the future. We got some more questions in the bank, so we'll do some more episodes coming up there as well. If you are a new listener, go back and binge some old episodes. We got a bunch of older episodes. We've done over 100, so there's definitely some goodies back there. So instead of binging your new show that you found that's not really doing anything to add value to your life except a little bit of entertainment, why don't you do something that'll help you build a business or build more MRR?
Instead of wasting your time, why don't you add more value to your business by binging our podcast? Agreed. Co-signed.
I should have just been just transparent about that. Yeah, stop. Don't waste your time, people. COVID times are hard. It's easy to fall into Netflix or Hulu, but schedule your time, listen to some episodes. That's the best thing you could do. That's all. WPMRR.com for the WPMRR virtual conference. If you want to sign up for free, we'll be doing that, and that'll be cool. So we'll be in your podcast players again next Tuesday. Thanks again for listening/watching. See you, Christie.
Thank you. Bye.